Hey, Woo Crew. We're back with another episode of the Woo Curious podcast. I am Eileen, and I am here with
Ellie and all of my pups. All
yeah.
of my many pups today. They're back. They're the real stars of the show, let's be real.
So today we want to talk about spirit guides and connecting with spirit guides and like what the heck are spirit guides and do you think we're crazy? And that kind of jazz. And we're going to do a little more kind of just chatting back and forth about our experiences with this rather than the more teaching heavy episode that was our last couple of episodes. So I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I'm also excited about this episode because I think the banter is where the magic happens on this podcast. And just to premise this with what we're speaking about today and what we're going to speak to for the next few episodes are actually tools that we use in our practice for connecting, but also for tapping into whatever sort of frequencies and energies that we might be working with in any given time. So these are just tools that we can use as any part of our practice. Whether you're, full, card carrying witch, if you will, you've got the badge. It's probably more like I can't even remember the word for this right now. It's probably more like a patch that you put on the back of your jean or leather jacket. Oh, or a pin. Oh, a Woo Curious pin.
Coming soon.
We have to.
We do.
Whether you are the card carrying or you're just Woo Curious, these are tools that you can use in your practice at any time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many tools and they are useful in different scenarios, and some people are going to be really drawn to and connect with certain tools over others. Some people might be really, really connected to the cards, Oracle Tarot. Some people might prefer pendulums. You're a tarot girl for sure. There's so many, and it's really, again, that intuitive, like what calls you? What are you interested in? What do you want to use? Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. I think you're bringing a really good point up that I think we need to be very explicit about, is that there's no recipe. There's no, like, if you don't X, then you're not woo enough. This is not the punk scene in 1990. Okay. We're not here for street cred. This is literally I hope some of my former punk friends are now hearing this and being like, oh, that's why she was so rebellious at that point. Screw you and your darned street cred points, scene points. And so that's not what this is about. This is really about having tools that you can take at any point and use at any point. And I think we just really needed to be explicit about that because there's so many people. We've heard from so many of you, oh, we need to do like a listener comment section,
comments,
like review or the feedback that we've been getting, because we love hearing from you. Please do not stop telling us that you are listening to the podcast, and do not stop writing in and with your epiphanies about whatever it was that you just heard. But the comments that I've been getting personally are things like, well, by your definition, I'm totally a witch. I would have never considered that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have a certain box that we've put witchery into, or we've put priestessing into. I will also tell you my story at one point about breaking my own personal mold for my priestess practice. But I think that we are used to having a certain checklist or a certain qualifications. Again, the Woo Curious pin, when you get the badge, then that's whenever you can officially call yourself a witch or woo, and that's not it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that, and I often find for myself that you start to learn about these things and you see people incorporating them and doing them, and it can be really overwhelming to suddenly be like, oh shoot, I didn't set intentions at the new moons, I failed. Like we put this pressure on ourselves, maybe not everybody, but those of us who are A-type, hello.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
put pressure on ourselves to do it all right and to do it all, and It's really tough. I remember having to give myself a lot of grace when I started to dabble in this stuff, to be like, it's okay if you missed the new or full moon. You can work with the energies around like a few days before and after, or you can just not for that month. It doesn't make you less of a spiritual person. It doesn't make you less woo. It doesn't make you less of a witch if you identify as a witch. It just doesn't make you less. Is a consistent spiritual practice beneficial? For sure, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And it's not the end of the world if you miss a day or two, or a week or two, or a year or two, and you pick it back up. It's life.
It is life. I really like what you said as well about the reflection of like if you miss the full moon or the new moon, and somebody who is really solidifying my practices, like the new moon is not my time. The full moon is literally where I shine. And so it's okay for me to have a like hat tip to the new moon, but also really come out of the broom closet on the full moon and you know, fly my witchy flag at that point. So
Yeah.
I think it's key. It's key to know these things.
Yeah, for me, it's less about the moons. I love the moon and I follow it and I gaze at it and I pay attention to when it's full and new. And I don't have any routine practices. If I'm feeling it, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to light some candles and set some intentions in the dark at the new moon. But most of the time for me, it's more just a noting that it's happening, bringing it to my awareness. For me, it's the wheel of the year. Those cyclical celebrations, those are important. I do prioritize them. I make a point to make sure I'm celebrating them. And that feels less overwhelming because there's only 8 of them in a year. I only have to do it every 6 months or 6 weeks or so.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Find your groove. Find your spot and experiment with it and see where it goes.
You're the expert on you, and your path is perfect.
Oh, I need a bell, and just like that needed a yes. Let's ding the bell.
Ding.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about spirit guides. Do you want to start with tell me your experience with spirit guides? Like when did you first start connecting with them? How did you even know that they existed? Tell me the things.
Yeah, sure. I first started connecting with them, my personal guides, while I was in wild medicine healers training, which is the year-long program that I was in. And prior to that, I thought it was pretty like it was way too out there for me. For a long time, it was too out there for me. Even when I started connecting to them, it was still maybe a little too out there for me.
I love it.
Yeah. But it was part of the program. It was something that we did. And my mentor led us through Drum Dream. She has training in the shamanic tradition, Celtic shamanic tradition. That's where her heritage is from. And she guided us through a process of going up to meet a guide. And it was pretty wild. Like, it's one of those things, again, where I'm like, am I making all this up in my head? If I am, fine. Sure, whatever. But it's really curious what you find and who you meet and what they represent. And yeah, so I've gone and connected since then several times. I find drum dreaming is actually a really powerful, potent way for me to connect with my guides. And it makes sense because I'm Celtic descendant. That's my kind of initial introduction. I went up, I got the name of one guide. She gave me some messages. I came back and I was like, okay, weird. This is weird.
Here we are, though.
Here we are, though. And I love it. Since then, I have like a council of guides that I connect with regularly. And sometimes they show up at the weirdest times. I was driving home from the coffee shop one day, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, you're all in the car. What are you doing here?
They had a message for you.
They had a message, and it was just this awareness of, oh, you know what? Maybe they're just always here. And sometimes I'm aware of them, and sometimes I'm not.
That's some good caffeine.
Yeah, yeah, right. It was fun.
I want to come back. First, tell me or tell our listeners, what is drum dreaming?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's a shamanic tradition, again, a Celtic shamanic tradition of using a drum, like a bodhrán, to access different realms. So we think about the place that we exist is the physical realm, and there's a lower realm and an upper realm, and you could call this whatever you want to call it. The upper realm could be the spiritual realm or heaven or something. The lower realm is not hell. We are not subscribing to that. But the lower realm is like where ancestors live, that kind of earthy wisdom. It's below the roots. And the upper realm is where our spirit guides live, where angels live, if you believe in angels, that kind of different energies there. And yeah, it's a guided process. There's no talking. You can do it without speaking usually. And it's just a rhythmic beat that takes you into whichever realm you choose. You set an intention, you speak it out loud 3 times, and then you go. And
You
then
travel, you get on the train,
travel.
and
Yeah.
you get off at the stop that you want to get off at.
Yeah. And then there's a callback. So the pattern of the drumming changes. When it's about to wrap up, it slows right down to tell you, okay, we're closing up. It's time to come back. And then it's really, really fast. And you almost like go in reverse, backwards, traveling the path that you just took back to where your starting point was, which is a place in nature that can be a real or imagined place. I think some people start in different places. I always start in the same place. I've never been to this place, but it's a very real place for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have fun. What a great journey.
It's so much fun.
What a trip.
Yeah, it's a cool way to access different parts of our consciousness, our subconsciousness, and other energies that are impacting us for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So when you met your council, tell me a little bit about what you use them for. Like, how do you call on them is question number 1. And question number 2 is, in what ways do you call on them? Like, for what?
Yeah. I don't often call on them as a whole council together, although I have and I do sometimes. Usually I call on them. They're part of my prayers every morning. A general, like, lend me your guidance, lend me your wisdom. If I have specific asks, I'll speak it in my prayers. And there's always this give as well. I'm always careful to make sure that I also ask if there's anything I can do for them. That sense of reciprocity is really important in everything that we do when we're engaging with the more than human world, because we don't want to just take, we don't want to just assume. I mean, our spirit guides are here for our benefit. They are quote unquote assigned to us to help us towards our greatest good. They really want to help, but also it's really nice to say, hey, like, let me know if there's something that I can help effect for you on this earth or do for you. And so that's like my most common way of connecting with them, is just that mention in my prayers in the morning. And then sometimes I'll drum dream and go up to where they hang out. And I will sometimes seek out one of them specifically because they each kind of have their gifts and their wisdom. So if I'm looking for answers or support or guidance around a specific problem, I'll seek out the one that I know is good at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'll seek them out more generally and just be like, just come love me up a little bit.
Is there anybody here? Anyone right now?
Somebody just give me a hug.
I love that. I love that, being called on for some emotional support at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have practices around connecting with your spirit guides?
Yeah, actually. Okay, so short answer to this question is, I'm going to come way out of the closet right now. And there are some family and friends that have not heard this out of my mouth yet. And so, hi, Mom. I see dead people. And I have my whole life, especially as a kid, I was constantly worried that there were people at the end of the bed. I wasn't worried. There were people at the end of the bed, okay? And as part of the seeing dead people, I became very fearful because in my childhood brain, I thought, this is just nightmares. And I had literal night terrors for years as a kid. Fast forward to probably mid to late 20s, and no, definitely late 20s, possibly early 30s. I met this woman named Mary Pierre, and I have spoken about her on the podcast before. And she sort of wafted her way into the yoga studio they owned at this exact moment in time and was looking for a space to do some group readings in. And so we became friends. And this is one of the things that I mentioned to her. That's a lie. She came to a yoga class of mine and she said to me, I don't think you know, but you're channeling when you teach. And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. You're weird, not me. And so we had a very long, many-year discussion around spirit guides and around the gift that I have for letting people pass through to the next life. So that's why I have people standing at the end of my bed. But I was so scared at this point to acknowledge that there was anybody standing in my bed. And I was definitely not connecting with a spirit guide, because that would mean in my mind, somehow I was opening myself up to exorcism. Like, obviously, that's what I was going to become possessed. And even though I have never watched any of those movies, that's just in my mind what was going to happen. And so it was like a non-negotiable for me to open myself up to any other realm or even fathom that there was another realm. And so we did some work together, and she allowed for me to see that I can actually hang a sign out saying closed for business, so to speak, or open for business. And she taught me, actually, she outed me in a group reading in a kind, loving manner. She was very funny. She said, so have you been connecting with your spirit guides? And I was like, no. She's like, yeah, I can tell. Okay. So my spirit guides, so through this really like unofficial mentorship with her, because I really wanted to hone some of my intuitive gifts at this point in my life, I was like, wait a minute, there's some serious things here that I think that I can use. Not that I could become the next Sylvia Brown. It's not what I'm here for. Sylvia does Sylvia well. I'm here to actually use them. I realized how beneficial they could be for me to use them in my business, in my personal practice, like to call on a bestie at any point and be given some sort of guidance. Mm-hmm. Just made me realize, like, I will definitely connect to whatever is going on in this hocus pocus, which is what I used to call it. So through mentorship with her, I started connecting to them, and I actually connect to the lower realms. We are all earthly beings. There are animals down there. There are like big earthly individuals with strong energy. I can probably count less than one hand how many times I go up to the ethereal angelic realm. I am the shadow worker. I am the down below. And so I often have actually a bear that comes to me, a grizzly bear. And anytime this happens, what's really curious for me is the reality of the experience. Like, I can smell the grizzly and I can hear our feet as we walk along the forest floor. And the sheer reality of this is so potent that it reminds me that we actually just get to be with these individuals at any point. So sometimes my guides show up as animals. I've had deer, I've had a raccoon at one point, and they're here to bestow some information to me. And other times they're just literal individuals that are here. And there's a male form in particular that is very much like, oh, sweet child. Oh, sweet child. If you only knew, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I'm down in the lower realms. The way that I've connected before, I remember doing this really cool. There's a healer out there named Pixie Lighthorse, and now she's a healer farmer, and she is from the Pacific Northwest, and she had a couple of different recordings with animal energy. And I remember going to one of the sessions, and we were visiting mountain lion energy, which is like a really strong warrior feminine energy. And that was a super powerful session for me to really tap in. And for me as well, it's often drumming. I have an ocean drum that I absolutely adore that brings me down into the lower realms. I will play the ocean drum one time. It's not in my current space, but I'll play my ocean drum on the podcast. It's magical. Sounds just like the ocean.
Cool.
And it was gifted to me by a dear friend. And then I also use meditation. And often my meditation, this is strictly safe, people, totally safe. Don't report me to the insurance companies. But you said you were driving home from the coffee shop one day and everybody was in your car. I find driving is one of the easiest places for me to connect because I have to concentrate in chaos. And so often if it's not necessarily stop and go traffic, it's driving in a longer distance at a certain speed, possibly highway. And that environment really brings me into a space. So I find I'm often connecting with them, and then I'm doing voice recordings with some downloadable messages that came in, just like pop that notification right in my phone.
A few downloads, yeah.
That I've downloaded, and some wisdom that's been bestowed upon me. And it's just like miraculous. It is so interesting and so beneficial to connect with my guides, because it is the moment that I say to myself, my ego, my mind, my linear mind gets in a tizzy about anything and everything. And I have to give it up to something else. And so giving it up to my guides to be like, I need an answer. I need some help. I need you guys just to take this from me right now. Whatever this is, please. It's not mine. It's not mine. Can you dispose of this? And so I really noticed a difference as I continue to speak about this. I really noticed a difference whenever I was first starting to connect with them, that previously I was in like an emotional tizzy constantly, like victim mindset, playing stories through my head constantly. And now it's really easy and quick just to go, oh, wait, this isn't mine. Okay, let's give this up and let's come back to center.
Yeah. I'd love to touch on something you said too, because you mentioned like driving is when those downloads happen or those insights happen. And that's really common for a lot of people, driving and in the shower, because both of those things can be on autopilot. Neither of those things allow us to have our phone in front of our face. Please don't drive with your phone in front of your face. Oh my goodness.
Or shower.
Sorry. I was driving yesterday to the grocery store, and there was this, it was like an SUV type big ass thing. And I was like, dude, why? Like, find your lane. Why? What's wrong with you? You're not accelerating normally. You're not. Anyways, of course, I get up beside the guy and he's got his phone. And I was beside him for like 3 kilometers in kind of stop go rush hour traffic. And he never put his phone down.
Yeah.
I was like staring daggers at him, waiting for him to look over, because people usually look over at some point when they're beside you in traffic.
Not when they're on their phone.
No, I was so mad.
That's a horn toot if you need to.
I was so mad. Anyways, that was an aside. In traffic or in the car is often when people get insights and downloads, and like there's something about that automatic physical activity engagement. You have to be aware of what's going on around you. It's really hard to worry and stress about other things and still drive safely, but there's like that flow zone that you get into when you're driving. I mean, I'm sure everybody's had the experience of driving and then getting to where they were going and being like, I don't remember getting here. You know, when it's a place that you drive frequently and a route that you drive frequently, you zone out and everything's on autopilot. And it gives your brain that kind of breathing room to contact or connect with either spirit guides or just insights or your subconscious or however you want to say it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's really fun. Really fun. And I love how you spoke to offloading, you know, the things that aren't yours. Can you please take this? I don't need this. It's not helpful.
And I want to speak to this reciprocity piece, is that I will often say, like, thank you. How can I serve you? How can I serve you? And there was a half an eye roll there, because part of the rebel in me is like, nobody tells me what to do. And the other part of me is like, in deep devotional service, thank you for offloading this for me. how can I serve you? And some interesting things that have come back are go for a walk, like a task for me.
The
Go for a
beauty
walk.
of serving your spirit guides is that their whole purpose, the thing they want the most, is for your highest good. And so,
Yeah.
how can I serve you often is, what can I do for me?
Yes.
Yeah. I get the message, keep going, you're on the right path,
Yeah.
quite frequently when I say, what can I do for you?
Yeah. It's true. You are on the right path. Here we are.
Here we are on the path.
Tell me about some experiences that you've had with other people in your life connecting to their spirit guides.
I haven't had a ton of people connecting. It's a kind of a new practice that I'm pulling into my coaching, my energy healing practice. I've certainly been with people while we drum dreamed and accessed our guides together. And it's always so interesting hearing people come back from the quote unquote same journey, the same length of time, the same room, we're sharing energies, and just how different the experience can be,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautiful. But there's a process that I really love that's quite powerful called a soul council. It's like a guided process to help connect with spirit guides, whether or not you have a relationship with them already, and like get answers. Often it is answers that you're looking for. I have a client who went in with questions and her answer was, it's okay to not know.
Mm.
which is like, oh, okay, thank you. But it was also really, it was comforting for her. She was just so held through the whole session that she really came out of it. She had a profound experience. Those are her words, not mine, with this sense of being loved and held and protected, and that it was okay to not know. So that's a really fun little practice. And the woman who bestowed it on me, she spoke about a friend who she had guided who was trying to sell her house. So it can be just like comfort, spiritual stuff, but it can also be really practical when we're working with our guides. It's not always like esoteric out there. It can be like, why isn't my house selling? In this particular story, this woman was trying to sell her house. It was on the market. The market was good. The house was priced properly. Like it was market value, and she couldn't figure out why her house wasn't selling. And so she did a soul council process with the woman who bestowed this process on me and came out with some guidance, like some really specific guidance. I can't remember exactly what the guidance was in this moment, but she had a like, you need to do XYZ. And so she did, and her house sold the next week. It was amazing.
We just got to give it up sometimes.
Yeah,
we just have to give it up.
Give up the control to get the answers.
Simple.
Yeah. It's so simple, and it's a really quick process, and it's like half an hour kind of start to finish runtime, and the results can be so deep and like ripple effect for sure.
I love this. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about the current time. Speaking of connecting to souls.
Oh yeah.
All Hallows Eve, Samhain is just around the corner. Let's talk a little bit about the veil thinning and the period of time that we're currently in for connecting to many things.
Let's. Ooh, Samhain, I'm so excited.
The best time of the year. This is Witches Christmas, people. This is Witches Christmas.
Yeah, it's a better way. It is technically the witch's new year because it marks the beginning of the new year in the pagan calendar and the Celtic calendar, but it feels more like Christmas because I like Christmas as a time better than the new year. It's funny, ever since I was a kid, I have loved Halloween. It was hands down my favorite. I couldn't understand why it wasn't a holiday. I was like, how can they expect us to go to school the day after trick-or-treating? Like,
no.
No. And just the ability to dress up and express weirdly. I'm an Aquarius sun moon, so I think some of that comes from there. But I'm now stepping into the world of witchcraft and what this path is. Now I understand my obsession with it because it's a really cool time of year. And it is the time of year where the veil between the worlds at least between the ancestral worlds and our worlds, is the thinnest. The other time of year where it's as thin but more kind of oriented towards the fae folk is Beltane, which is 6 months later in the spring. But Samhain is a time of thinning of the veil between the worlds, so it's easier to connect with beings that are not on our plane. It's easier to pop down to the lower realm. It's easier to pop up to the upper realm, and it's easier to like get guidance and have that guidance be more clear. Because if you think about the veils between the world almost as like a fog, and if you've ever been in a fog, it distorts sound, right? It changes our perception of things. And when the fog is thinner, the distortion is less, and it's easier to get those messages through really clearly. I think I just channeled that. I didn't know any of that.
The veil is thinning, people. The veil is thinning.
I mean, I knew some of it, but
that was the best. You heard it here first, folks. That's what channeling is like. It's as simple as that. As you come down from your like, whoa, where did that come from? I want to speak a little bit to my also childhood and adulthood obsession with Halloween and how it fits into all of this. So yes, of course, I love Halloween. My house burnt when we were, I don't know, maybe 20, maybe 18, 20. And we lost all of our pictures. Like the most tragic thing about a house being lost is not the things and stuff, it's the memories. And every now and again, something surfaces from a birthday, from a Halloween, from an event where a picture of me will come up. And the costumes, if you can call them that, were quite intriguing at the time. First of all, for like 8 years in a row, I was a quote unquote punk rocker. Like I tipped my hat. And other than that, I was a witch. Okay. And I think that for me, Halloween is so exciting, especially as an entrepreneur, and I come from an entrepreneurial family. This is the first entrepreneurial experience that kids have. You literally dress up in a uniform. You go door to door, and your trick or treat is, will you pay me or won't you, for that matter? I mean, if we think traditionally of trick or treat, it's, will you pay me or do I get to be an insubordinate employee? And when you come home afterward, you dump out all of your wares, all of your earnings, and you section out like a bank account the highest to lowest value of things. So all of your candy, if you ever had the experience, like we knew where the full bag of chips, where the full chocolate bar, and where the full cans of pop, where they came from. And there was no not hitting those houses. And
my neighbor across the street gave full wagon wheels.
What? That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
My mom every year made popcorn. Actually, my grandmother made popcorn balls, and my mother also made them. And my mother made candy apples.
Small towns before they wouldn't let us serve real food as our candy.
Exactly. And we always got a leftover candy apple, of course. But we loved the like, we were the candy apple kids. Take that, full chocolate bar. Can't get this every day. And so it's this real entrepreneurial practice for kids. And now I actually really love this concept. Have you heard of the Switch Witch?
No.
Okay, so the Switch Witch
I think I have, but explain it.
The Switch Witch concept is for, I mean, these are not the hard and fast rules, so don't at me, okay? But essentially you can choose a couple of pieces of candy at night. When you come home, you earn your wares. But this is what brings it into an even deeper entrepreneurial experience for the kids. You then take all of your, and witchy, let's just be real, all of your candy, and you offer it to the Switch Witch overnight. And the Switch Witch, if they are satisfied, provides you with an item that you long for. And so, parents, if you are listening to this, the Switch Witch is the key to not having orangutan children from now until Christmas, because they probably trick-or-treated enough candy to get them to at least American Thanksgiving, okay? And at that point, you are ready to never see a piece of candy in your life again. Although you've probably garnished all of the Reese peanut butter cups, potentially all of the Snickers and Mars bars.
And coffee crisps.
Oh, and a Kit Kat. Okay, all the good stuff. You've got M&Ms, all the good stuff. And it's just like they're eating like rockets now. They're eating rockets and licorice, the stuff that is less valuable. And maybe they still have a couple of like a can of pop or two that they're like hiding underneath their bed. But the switch is the key. And I think this is the greatest entrepreneurial thing, because you then take all of your wares and you invest them into something that you really want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Halloween in general is just the most amazing time for kids, because if we really, just for a half second, and I put on my entrepreneurial hat and we take the magic, oh no, the magic is always there. We can't take the magic out of it. You're trying to find, of course, the best costume, the best return for investment is what you're really trying to find in choosing a costume. And you're also trying to embody something that you might not be in everyday life.
That's my favorite part, I think. I do end up dressed as a witch very, very frequently, and like a hedge witch, or I don't know, like an old witch doctor type costume.
A little wart maybe on your nose.
No, not quite. I go like white with like red markings. It's quite beautiful, but a little bit scary. And just like lots of layers and feathers. I've got like this feather thing that I got one year. I was a crow and Greg was a scarecrow. So brilliant. I've got those. But I went to a party last year with all my friends who I play D&D with. And at some point in the night, I was like, I wish I could dress like this every day. And my one friend, he is so sweet. And he was just like, you can. And he's right. I could. I am not quite there.
That's one more step out of the closet.
It's one more step. It's really, really out of the closet. But I was like, I love you. Like, you're so kind. And so the fact that this whole group of people would just embrace me and hang out with me out in public, no problem, even if I was dressed like that, is a story for another day. But
our biggest critic is ourselves. Our biggest judge is ourselves.
Greg was
and
like,
the sound of our mother's voice in our head.
Right. And Greg was like, I wouldn't hang out with you if you were dressed like that in public.
Well, sir, looks like I'm going out solo tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's really fun.
I love Halloween. And if we speak about the actual timing for this, the thinning of the veils is between October 28th and the 3rd of November is sort of the like.
And it actually even starts sooner.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Like the 15th to the 10th kind of it's a slow thinning, and like the potent time, the time when it is at its thinnest, is that 28th to the 3rd. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I think this is a really good time. Let's talk about some practices that we can do.
Yeah.
At least I want to say some things.
Yeah.
I have something to say. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Some of the things that you can do during this time is, of course, connect with your spirit guides. Yes, indeed. Connect with your spirit guides. You can also set a place at the table for any and all of your ancestors to join you.
Yes.
You can invite them for coffee or tea and make them an offering of whatever it is that you're drinking and or snacking on. Mm-hmm. You can start to talk to people in your life that have passed on. My father passed away earlier this year, and my practice of speaking to him is just everyday life. And my mom, I'm going to out you as now becoming woo curious, just started to speak to my father and has had some pretty distinct signs of his response. And she's definitely questioning, but she also is super excited to potentially get a bit of a sign from him, a total sign from him. So speak to your ancestors, speak to your guides. I also really love at this time having baths, like clarity and clarifying baths. Use your bath salts, use your baking soda, use your essential oils, use your flower petals, do a smoke cleanse before you get in the bathtub. do a smoke cleanse every single day if you so please. Any of these things are really great opportunities for you to connect to the other side and get little nuggets of wisdom because the veil is so thin. Get little nuggets of wisdom that might be for you. Like they're literally yelling at you at every minute of the day. And so getting these nuggets of wisdom is going to maybe provide you with some insight that you might not have had or thought about previously. Any other ways that you like to connect around this time?
Those are the big ones. I think you really touched on that, the ancestor piece. As I mentioned, the 2 times that the veil is thinnest, now and Beltane, this time is really ancestor focused. And one of the things that I think is so cool and really supports this idea, like really, it feels like an idea. It feels like somebody just made it up. But we see this in the Celtic world strongly with like Samhain is that Celtic tradition. Our tradition of dressing up was from that tradition of, okay, the dead are here and some of them are malevolent and we want to hide from them and only reveal ourselves to whoever we trust. And so they would dress up for that reason. And then you look to South America and Mexico and we have the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, and it's the same effing time. Like it is
1st of November.
Important, right? There is this similarity across the globe and these practices that are associated with these times of the year. And so I think it's really interesting to tap into that piece. My grandma's always on my altar, but at this time of year specifically, she kind of takes more center focus, and other things that remind me of my ancestors or call them in, they take a place and they're more the focal point of my altar during this season of Samhain.
You're also reminding me that our dreams can also become big messages for us. So you may want to, if you're not already in practice, have a dream journal during this period of time, because people can come to us in dreams. There's messages in dreams. There's also wild and wacky things that sometimes don't make sense until later on. And so just note what it is that you're dreaming. And yes, I think the other practice that, let's be overt about this, is to build an altar around your ancestors. Gather those pictures that you may have in frames, put them on a surface, put them on a flat surface, put them somewhere that you are visible to you, and then collect little trinkets and symbols and potentially things from nature. Like if you were out in nature, be open to receiving messages. When I was in California, we did a little walk around the property that we were on, and this is a piece of wood my father is still probably in his afterlife a logger, and so he would always bring me just kind of unique pieces from the forest floor, let's say, for example, and we were on a little trek, and this is what came to me from the forest floor, and I said, oh, my pappy's here. He's here with me in California. We had talked about wanting to go to California many a time, and he got to come with me. He showed up. So your dreams, your journeys, any of those things right now, really take note to see who's coming, who's showing up for you.
Yeah. And with dreams too, that's an interesting one. You can ask for guidance too. You can set an intention when you go to bed, just say, hey, show me what's for my highest good, or I have this question, can you help me figure it out? You may or may not remember your dreams, and that's okay. Trust that you can still receive guidance in them, even if you don't remember them. But if you want to remember them, you can also set the intention that you'd like to. And then keeping that dream journal beside the bed. And when you're like pulling out of sleep and you have the dreams kind of there, and all you want to do is sink back in, if you can pull yourself right out and just even bullet point, jot some notes to jog your memory in the morning, you won't need much. That can be a really good way to start actually remembering them more. And I personally don't often remember my dreams unless I'm intentional about like, hey, I'd like to. And then some people remember them every day. My partner comes down and tells me every day, every morning, the stressful dream he had the last night. It's always late for a plane or can't find his bag, or it's always travel dreams and it's always stressful.
Interesting. But he needs a little lavender oil before bed, maybe some vinegar.
Right? He spent 10 years as a digital nomad, so that's probably a big part of that. But
still detoxing from that. Definitely detoxing from that.
Yeah.
Eileen, tell me a little bit about how people can work with you in the realm of spirit guides.
Yeah, on theme with everything we're talking about, and with this veil thinning. I was quite literally in the shower. These ideas tend to come to us, and it felt like it just dropped that I really wanted to offer these soul council sessions. So I spoke a little bit about what a soul council is, and I'm offering them beginning on the 15th, which is yesterday if you're listening to this on Monday, until, well, we'll see. I may close the offer at the end of this period, and I may not, but if you are interested, you want to get in before the 10th in case I do decide to close it. I'm sorry, that's really wishy-washy, but that's that's how I run. I don't know what's going to feel like at the end of the month. But basically, it's a half-hour session. I've created a 45-minute window because sometimes things do run long, to ask a question, to get clarity around a decision you need to make, to ask a question about what your next best steps are. Do you need to sell your house and it's not selling? Like, we can go in and ask about that. Do you need to know if you should push for a raise or seek out a new job? Like, anything practical can come up. Or are you just looking for some comfort? Are you wanting to connect maybe with somebody who has passed, and you want to check in and see how they're doing and if they have any wisdom for you? So I'm offering it for this month, starting the 15th. It feels really like an easy decision in my brain because the experience is so powerful, having experienced it myself. It's a really cool way to drop in. So that's my main thing. I always host a Wheel of the Year ceremony. If you're interested in that, that's revolving. It's on my website.
Yeah, when is your Samhain recipe
ceremony?
Excuse me. I'm like, recipe. No, we're not making pumpkin loaf. Okay, we're haunting people.
Yeah. The online version is on the 30th at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if there's people listening in Calgary, it's on the 27th in person. And we're starting a little bit early with an ancestors potluck. And then the actual ceremony is at 7.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll drop those details so that if anybody wants to sign up, they can down below.
For sure.
Excellent. I am going to host a couple of things as well this season.
Tell us about them.
We're going with the shadow theme. Welcome. Step into my office, people. Step into my office. Let's get, I don't even know. Let's get low. Okay, let's get low. I am going to, yes, let's get on. Let's melt. Exactly. We are moss witches. Okay, people, step in line. Scorpio season is upon us. And as a Scorpio, we juicy, my friends. We juicy and mysterious. And people think we're stingy, but that is literally a shadow side of Scorpio. So I'm going to host a Scorpio season workshop ceremony, and we're going to get low. We're going to get onto the earth. There's going to be a burning ceremony. So bring your cauldron. If you don't have a cauldron, you can use your toilet, people. You can use your toilet. Literally anything can be a cauldron. We don't need to get fancy. We're going to do some shadow work and bringing things out to light. A lot of people think that shadow work is this like scary, deep place that we can't recover from. And that's not all we're doing. We are dipping our toe to shine light on things. And it actually also is a full moon right around that time. It's the 28th of October is the full moon. And this ceremony is going to be on the 26th, Thursday, the 26th of October. Scorpio season. Meet your mysterious self.
I love it.
That's number 1. Number 2, get in line. No, number 2 is I'm also hosting a Samhain ceremony, and this is just going to be a touch point with our ancestors. We're going to do some meditation. We're going to do some like digging into what our knowledge is. What is it that we need to know? Mm-hmm. And that is going to be on the 30th of October. So the veil is thinning. It's time to touch point. And you can find the information for that also in the show notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's burn shit. We always burn things in my ceremonies.
So good.
We burn and we excavate and we, yeah.
I love
call in.
Is there anything else that we need to speak into? I do have one thing that I want to say. that is reminding us because we're getting so close. Next week's episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about Halloween. We must talk a little bit more about Halloween because it will be our maybe unofficial pre-Halloween episode. And I just want to say, if you are curious about any of these traditions, these Halloween traditions, Samhain, any of those things, reach out, contact us, ask your questions. We would love to answer them on next week's episode if you have them for us. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about anything we want to talk about when it comes to this holiday, and some more practices that we have for this time of year going forward.
I could talk about it forever. Definitely love to hear what people are interested in. And that always goes for every episode. Like if you've got questions, follow-up questions, we touched on something and you want to know more, let us know. We would love to bring it.
Please let us know. Okay, my friends. Okay, Woo Crew. This is a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us in our episode today. We love you being here. Let us know if you enjoyed the episode. You can go ahead and give us a 5-star review over on wherever it is that you listen to your podcast. And we will see you next week.